Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we bring you the latest news, information and analysis on what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now today I want to talk about a new phenomenon taking place in Russia, and it's the return of capital that rich Russians took out of the country and placed in banks and financial institutions in the West, only discovered that the rule of law and property rights don't exist there now if you're a Russian. They've discovered that your assets can be stolen and your property confiscated just because you happen to be Russian. Now, the sanctions imposed last year and the confiscation of assets by the Western governments of the property of wealthy Russians has led to trillions of dollars coming back, well, trillions of rubles, but actually about billions of dollars back to Russia by the richest of the Russian citizens. Now, they used to believe it was more safe and profitable to keep their money in foreign accounts. But since the West has begun to seize assets and freeze their bank accounts, they're taking the opposite position. Now, what does this mean for Russia, and what are the implications for the Russian economy as a whole? Well, in 2023, wealthy Russians realized that keeping their savings in foreign countries in places such as Europe was not such a good idea, and they've returned trillions of rubles, and that's according to a study by the analytical company RG. Now, during this period, the number of Russian bank clients with capital of more than 100 million rubles, which is $1 million, in Russia increased by 1.5 times. There's now 21.8 thousand of them. A year before that, their number was lower at around 15,000, i.e. rich Russians still had a large amount of their capital abroad. But in 2023, this trend was seriously reversed and large amounts of capital began to return. So it looks like it's capital return and remain is the agenda and not capital flight, which used to be the main source of contention. Now, according to the study by RG Financial, the amount of liquid capital of Russians in the country increased by 62% to 13.1 trillion from 8.1 trillion rubles, and that's from 131 billion from 8 billion. The growth was due to the inflow of new capital, 34% increase, or just under 3 trillion rubles. Changes in the stock market, they were up 13.2%, currency appreciation 8.9%, and growth in deposits by 5%. The previously popular financial services jurisdiction are losing Russian wealthy clients with the largest outflows amongst several European countries. The share of wealthy Russians holding their savings in the EU and the UK fell from 20% to 11%, in Switzerland from 20% to 6%, and the US from 5% to 3%. Even the use of so-called friendly jurisdictions is also declining. Turkey was chosen by only 5% of wealthy Russians for financial services last year, and that's down from 8% the year before. United Arab Emirates down 16%, down to 70% in 2022. Now, the only jurisdiction that actually managed to attract new wealthy clients from Russia was Hong Kong, where the share rose from 2% to 5%. Now, wealthy Russians are bringing their money back to Russia for two reasons. It's safer to keep it in Russia, and second, it's more profitable. Keeping savings abroad was more a matter of trust or tax optimization in the case of offshore jurisdictions. When it became clear that capital would be frozen, stolen, or just confiscated by the unilateral actions of vindictive politicians in unfriendly countries, repatriation sounded natural, according to Albert Korolev, who's an analyst at BC World of Investments. Some foreign banks don't even want to deal with Russian clients anymore and ask them to leave due to the political risk and harassment they face from the US and EU authorities. In our opinion, the main reason for the influx of capital into Russia is the sanctions and their consequences. The world's reserve currencies, with the exception of the yuan, are toxic for Russians today, as Western countries can completely ban Russians from doing business with their cash in their bank accounts in those countries at any time. And storing money in those currencies or friendly currencies is risky, as most of the currencies are unstable and susceptible to the influence of political risks, as Natalia Mikhailova, who's an analyst at Freedom Finance Global. Now, it's also extremely difficult to escape the constant devaluation of the Turkish lira. So all the sanctions that have been adopted so far are aimed specifically at very rich citizens because ordinary Russians do not keep their money abroad. I mean, besides, wealthy Russians who want to continue living in Russia are bringing their money back to the country, so it's easier to spend. That's according to Alexander Schneiderman, who's head of sales and customer services at Alpha Forex Bank. Now, in addition, Russia's high interest rates has made it profitable to keep money here in Russia rather than in foreign accounts. And keeping money in Russian banks on deposit and other ruble assets is profitable because Russian interest rates on ruble deposits and other ruble assets, like government and corporate bonds, are much higher than on deposits in foreign currencies, says Mikhailova. Now, according to the analyst's calculations, the bank deposits of wealthy Russians grew by 4.2% in 2023. It's a small figure at first glance, but in real terms, it's a huge amount of money that's entered the Russian banking system. Now, we're looking at around $150 billion, or euros around that. And of course, this money is helping and working for the Russian economy. So we're only going to see positive results here for the economic system of Russia. It also has a positive effect on the exchange rate of the ruble, and it helps the central bank fight inflation. I mean, for Russia, the inflow of capital into ruble assets, at least in bank deposits, is important because it helps increase the confidence of the ruble as a store of value. Now, the growing popularity of ruble deposits is also important for the continuing fight against inflation. The more rubles that are kept in deposits, the more of it will have an impact on reducing inflation and contribute to the stability of the Russian economy, says Mikhailova. Now, in addition, Schneiderman adds that the influx of capital has increased the volume of funds in the stock market by about 15%, which is quite a large move. Now, the inflow into the shares of Russian companies also supports business in Russia, which has a positive effect on the country's GDP. Now, capital is not only returning to bank deposits. Entrepreneurs have started actively returning to Russia and re-registering assets. Now, I talked about that in one of my previous videos. Many Russian companies have now decided to re-domicile back in Russia because the jurisdictions are much friendlier. And plus, Russia's suspension of double taxation treaty also played a major role, forcing many companies to return capital from places like Cyprus and other offshore zones. Now, Bloomberg estimates that between February 2022 and September 2023, Russians repatriated more than $200 billion in assets. Now, at the same time, Russian companies as a whole began to invest more in the Russian economy. In 2023, there's a record increase in the level of investment into industry by 10%. That's the largest in the last 12 years. Now, this was also facilitated by sanctions and the benefits of investing in the real sector of the Russian economy. So, rich Russians have finally woken up to the fact that they're really tolerated by the West, but not loved. And they hate and they envy and they fear Russia's independence in the leadership of the global South in the world. Now, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Also share with others who you think might enjoy my perspective. And do visit the website, SCOBRICSinsight.com, for lots of articles about what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.